hello, successful souls. This is a very special live recording of the Spiritual Success Podcast because today we have an inner feminine beast interview. So I'm going to do a lovely introduction and give you an idea of who we're going to be with today, and then she's going to jump on with us. So today, the lovely Jamila Payne is going to be joining us. Jamila Payne is known internationally as an authority for business owners looking to leverage scalable systems so they can double their income and serve more clients while working less. Her work has been featured in the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal, Entrepreneur Magazine, Black Enterprise, NBC, Fox, and several other media outlets. Like, hello, you want to join for this one? She's a boss, okay? She has directly trained tens of thousands of entrepreneurs to set up systems that improve their client acquisition process, grow to multi-six figures in revenues, and hire a dream team. Today, she's the CEO of Daily Success Routine, an online training and coaching company that empowers women to become bread-winning business owners by setting up the systems that are necessary for growth. She's the author of the book From Pain to Power and the host of the top-rated podcast Breadwinning Women, which I will be featured on soon, which I'm really excited about. So without any further ado, the lovely Jamila Payne is going to be joining us.
Hey, Cynthia. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here with you.
Of course, of course. So it's funny how, the world is so small. I love having connection calls. I love, the power of the fact that we can connect with anybody in the world on this little device that fits in our pocket. But you and I had the most lovely connection call recently, and I just had to have you on the show. So I'm really happy that you're here.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Of course. Okay, so before we dive into all the amazing questions that I have for you, I'd love for you to take a second and just go into a little bit greater depth on what it is that you really do with your clients and how you help them.
Yeah, so I help women who want to offer a high-end service to set up the systems that they need so that the behind the scenes of their business will allow them to serve more clients and increase their revenue.
Okay, cool. What's really fun is, this whole show really is targeted to a lot of entrepreneur women, a lot of executive women. And the fun thing that I noticed on our connection call was that you and I have something in common. We both were high achieving corporate executive women who took the big leap of faith and became entrepreneurs. And I always joke around, but being an entrepreneur is no joke. If you want to know what you truly love about yourself, become an entrepreneur. If you want to know what you really hate about yourself, become an entrepreneur. If you want to know your biggest strengths, your biggest weaknesses, you become an entrepreneur. It truly is like the ultimate spiritual journey. But I'd love to know from your perspective, what was that thing, that moment perhaps, that you decided it was time to completely go on your own and truly become an entrepreneur, and again, as successful as you are?
Yeah, so it's an interesting story, Cynthia, because I knew in my heart of hearts that I was always meant to be an entrepreneur. I mean, from a young kid, I was, by the time I was in high school, I had a business making $500 a week. I had seniors who were like doing seed capital, giving me $100. I flipped the money and give them back $150 a week later. Like, I was meant to be a business owner.
I have goosebumps everywhere. That's so fun.
But like a lot of people, I felt very torn between like the traditional path of corporate, get a great job after college, and what I knew like in my soul, right, that I was meant to do. So I did end up going that corporate route. Later, went and started a business. And what happened for me is I burned out. The way that I was building my business was not sustainable. I burned out and decided to go back to corporate and build my career. So I did climb the corporate ladder as a director of marketing, and ultimately ended up as a chief marketing officer of a e-commerce company. And so I burnt out, went back to corporate. And then while I was on vacation, right, got a LinkedIn message from a team member who was like, "Hey, I heard you left the company. Like, I'm so sad." And I was like, I didn't leave the company.
What are you talking about?
What are you talking about? Like, and so that put me back on the entrepreneurship path. And so when it comes to really, and I love the work that you're doing, Cynthia, because I think this really like comes to like, right, deep in your soul, like what you're meant to do, the work that you're supposed to create in the world. And here I was like still trying to veer off the path and do something else. And listen, God brought me right back, right? Universe brought me right back. Like, nope, this is what I said you were going to be doing. And guess what? This happened at the moment that I said to myself, I think I could maybe stay at this corporate job for a while. I really like this. I'm traveling. I was like running national campaigns and everything. I was like, oh, I can stick with this for a while. And universe is like, girl, I already told you what you're supposed to be doing. Snatched that opportunity away, brought me back to the business. But this time I built it in a way that was sustainable.
Right.
That I had the systems in place. I put the team in place. And so that's what I help people to do now, right? Like, how do you really create this thing that works for you, not building a business that you are stressed out, overworking, hustling. So now I'm fully aligned, right? I'm aligned with my purpose of what I'm meant to do. And I'm aligned in my business where I'm not hustling harder to work with clients and create revenue and grow.
Right. And creating a business that you're in control of that doesn't control you. So that's even deeper. That's so funny because you are this marketing queen. I'm known as the sales queen. We both go skipping into work. And if you asked me a year and a half ago where I thought I'd be today, I would have said vice president of sales for, somebody else's company, making their dreams come true and, doing all the sales thing. Like, it's just so interesting how we both blindly got fired.
Right.
But it was for us, by us.
Yeah.
Nothing was happening to us. It happened for us, by us. And it's right when we got super comfortable that it got pulled from underneath us. And it was like, no. It's funny. I'm reading this book and I've read this book so long ago, but I'm reading it again because it just keeps coming up in my head. But it's called Life Visioning by Michael Bernard Beckwith. And he has this quote that I love saying all the time: pain pushes until vision pulls. Ooh. And that's totally what happened to us. It's like, I want to do this thing. I want to do this thing. I want to do this thing. But it's like, we weren't doing the thing. So the universe, God was like, hey, here you go. Now you have to do the thing. Right. But what's so beautiful is that you've built such a successful company. And, it's not something you have to really wait and plan and perfect to do. Sometimes when you get the rug pulled from underneath you, it's like, no, now's the time. It's time to get comfortable with being uncomfortable, and it's time to do the thing, get it done and see it through. And it's interesting how we both have that in common with our personal journeys. So, after really looking into some of the programs that you offer, I loved to see that when it comes to what you feel really helps your clients to be successful, is that I noticed it was accountability. It was having the right business systems. It was being in a group container and having peer mentors, and also really understanding the process of executing on your goals. And you and I have this so much in common, which I absolutely love. I love teaching a lot of that mindset and the embodiment behind all of this, but you're teaching the tactical, the strategy, the systems and mechanical things to do every day. So I kind of want to have a conversation together about putting the practical with the intuitive and how our two worlds really aren't that different. So tell me about accountability. Why is this so important for an entrepreneur in achieving their goals and having a successful business?
Yeah, I love this question, Cynthia. So what I found in my work, and this started even before my business. So I had a lot of organizations that would hire me to run their entrepreneurship programs for them or do trainings for them. And what I learned is the students who were paired up, who had a peer or someone that they were accountable to, performed better. So back then in my classes, what I would say is, you guys need to exchange number, you find your peers. And if that person, if you're going to be late to class, you got to call your peer to let them know. Right. Yeah. And people didn't like that. They were like, crap, like, I don't want to have to call, they felt like on the hook. So people came on time. they got stuff done. And so seeing that prior in my career, I brought that into our program, right? So when you have others support, when you can see that other people are struggling, are having the same struggles as you are, or having the same thought processes that you are, you don't feel alone anymore, right? And you can push each other to your greatness. And you also, again, like that accountability allows them to take action because they don't want to look bad, right? Like no one wants to look bad with their friends. So it really helps them to move forward in that way. So I think it's critical as a business owner, if you know that, for example, sometimes you're great at keeping commitments with others, but not so much with yourself, then you want to use accountability strategically to be able to get things done. So I have even like earlier in my entrepreneurial journey, I remember wanting to write a business plan. Now, I had the experience of being a award-winning business plan competition writer, but I wasn't signing up. I signed up for a class to write a business plan, not because I needed to know how, because I knew the class gave me a 4-week container to do it, and I was going to get it done in that 4 weeks. So sometimes we need to, as business owners, leverage working out with a trainer, having a coach, right? Because you're getting that accountability and support that's going to make sure that you take the action when sometimes you might be a little bit softer with your own commitments.
Exactly. I always say I would not be the woman I am today if I didn't have others support me and accountability along the way. And even as a leader of my company now, a leader of my family, leader in my community, I use accountability through others all the time. I have my team come and meet with me in person once a week. I'm lucky that they're local, but I do that just so I make sure that we really focus on the things that need to get done. I still work with a trainer because I want to go in person and I can't not go to that meeting if I have it scheduled, like things like that. But what happens is after you really work with accountability through other people and you do it for long enough, it starts becoming self-accountability. It starts developing to self-integrity and self-responsibility. And it really becomes this natural discipline that you apply to your life. But it starts with really working with others. And I love that you see that because that's huge for me as well when it comes to how I work with my clients. Just last night, we had what's called an Inner Feminine Beast Accountability Power Hour, where we get together and I joke around. I'd love to show up and knock on your door and come sit down next to you to watch you do some of the work, but that's hard. So instead, we're doing virtually on Zoom. We're sitting there watching each other do the work, congratulating each other for getting it done, time blocking, and really just, supporting each other. And it's crazy how much we were all able to get done. And people's minds get blown when you really focus, let go of distractions, and work as a community. Because when you have more people focusing on something, it gets done even more. There's this book that I read recently, Elena Cardone, her Empire book. And she has an example where she says, one Clydesdale can pull 8,000 pounds. 2 Clydesdales together can pull 18,000. It's like an additional 2,000 pounds comes up. There's something powerful about working in groups and communities. So I think it's really cool that you incorporate that into your teachings as well. So what about the business systems? What is so important about systemizing your business?
Okay, so I really like to think of systems as a routine, right? So we already have routines in other areas of our life, like, a person may have a morning practice where they have their spiritual time or do journaling or thought work or, meditation, right? Yeah. So me too, right? So you have those routines for things that are personal, but we need the same things in business. Why do we create routines personally? Because it allows us to have predictable results, right? Like you're way different. You show up way different when you've done your spiritual practice in the morning than when you haven't, right? You might be a little more short-tempered. You can't, someone cuts you off.
It's not what you do that matters. It's who you are when you do it. Absolutely.
Exactly. So same applies to business, right? What are the routines that we need to put in place to create predictable results in business? So if you're bringing on a new client, right, a client onboarding process or system or routine, right, for simplicity, make sure that every single new client that comes on gets that same experience. It creates the same excitement. They feel comfortable. They know exactly what to do next, right? No different than when it comes to if you want to onboard a new team member in your business, right? You want to create a consistent experience that allows them to be ready to perform the work. So a lot of business owners have this perception of like, oh, systems are just software, or this is something that I'll do when I'm a bigger business.
Right.
But you know this, Cynthia, right? It's the fact that you put these things in place early is what allows you to become a bigger, financially successful business a whole lot faster.
Yeah. This was our first full year in business, and literally every day we're just putting new SOPs into place, because once you do it the first time, then you don't have to, think about how to do it again. It's in place and it's uniformed and it's done the same way for everybody to have the same experience. So that's perfect. Yeah, I think that's so important. And you do a lot with helping your clients to really implement these systems that work for them to be able to scale, right?
Yes, absolutely. So that they don't have to think about it, right? Like when you get to a point, let's just say if a person is, in the solopreneur stage right now, when they get to a point where they're ready to hire those first or second team members, maybe that first VA or marketing assistant or ops assistant, you already have a documented checklist, cheat sheet, step-by-step guide for some of the things that you're doing that you want to be able to transition off of your plate and be able to delegate to someone. And the brilliance of having this documented, especially, as early as possible in your business, is a lot of business owners feel like, I'm not sure if I want to hire one. They're just not going to do it the way that I would do it. Well, the getting them to do it the way that you would do it is documenting the way that you do it, so that, right, the person can do it exactly, produce the same exact result that you would create if you were doing it yourself.
Yeah, that's really interesting, because it really is not just dabbling or trying or willy-nilly doing things. Like our team, everybody has metrics, everyone has expectations, and that makes it amazing as the entrepreneur. What needs to get done will get done, but it also really creates that ability for your employees to trust you and understand what is expected from them so that they can set their goals. As a leader, you're not just, setting goals for your own company. You see each individual employee and what their dreams are and what their goals are. And that needs to be tied to systems that we can all be on the same page about, knowing that we'll get results. And it's the same thing, believe it or not, in spirituality. But like when it comes to metaphysics, everything is consciousness. Everything really is mathematical. There's formulas to success. Yes. And you're saying this too. I always say aligned thoughts plus aligned feelings plus aligned actions equal aligned results. And people often ask me, well, why are you saying aligned? Can't it just be thoughts, feelings, actions for results? Well, yeah. But the thing is, poverty is a result. A failing business is a result. Illness is a result. So we want aligned results, which means we have to take the right actions and have the right systems and have the right metrics so that we can get the outcome we're looking for. Yes. And what works, what doesn't, and what do we want to do different, right? And keep pivoting and be able to move. So yeah, systems are everything. And if you're not having this in your business from day one, it's time to start implementing that right away. It's going to change everything for you to have ease and flow. So I completely agree with you on that. Something that I adore that you bring up is the fact that it's important to be in a group container and have peer mentors there along the way supporting you. So how do you do this with your business?
So for us, inside of our BR Winners Mastermind, we have...
First of all, that is like the best name ever.
Thank you.
The BR Winners. I think it's so good.
We have a monthly peer session. So our members, our clients are broken into these different success circles. And so they meet up on a monthly basis and have those intimate conversations. So no one from the team is present. It's really meant to be for them to, share insights, ideas. Sometimes they're doing like co-working together, like you mentioned. So it's perfect because there's a lot of layers, right, in the program, because you have that accountability. Like we have an accountability coach that works with them. So they're getting accountability that way. Then they also have the peer piece, right? So the two together is really dynamic because you're talking one-to-one to people that are along the same journey. But then the additional, like, so the accountability from the coach plus the peer accountability creates this, 360-degree circle, right, for them to feel completely supported. And as I was saying before, I think it's really cool to hear from someone else who's on that same journey as you, that has the same goals, the same vision, the same desires, who you can talk freely with. Like, this is what I'm feeling today, right? This is what is on my heart and mind. This is what I'm, struggling with, and have that intimacy in business. And that's, and I think this is something that, in terms of our feminine power, right, that we really get to tap into. We have, this inner knowing as women. And it's important to be able to share that on a business level in the same way we would. Nobody has a problem going to talk to their girls about something going on in their relationship, right? Mm-hmm. We need that intimacy in business, and being a part of a group container is a way to do that, right? Whether or not there's directly a peer element, just being in a group container allows you to be with other people that are on that same journey. You can create that intimacy that really allows you to tap into your feminine power when you are building a business.
It's 100% true. So, even when I work with my clients one-on-one, I have them be part of the group sessions as well, because power is in proximity.
Yes.
Everything I have in my company is because I made it through connection. I helped, you will meet somebody who meets somebody who meets somebody, but also, like you said, just that mental and emotional support. So I remember back in my corporate days, I would be talking, and of course I sprinkled in a little bit of the intuition and the woo-woo into the practical. And I just remember that these high achieving executive women would come to me, and they would often be whispering. They'd be like, Cynthia, I just love how woo-woo you are and how intuitive you are. And I'm like, why are you whispering? Right? Like, of course you are too. Like, you're so magical. Do you understand? Right. But they felt they had to whisper because they didn't feel necessarily in a safe space to be able to, share that they're interested in learning about metaphysical concepts, that they do believe in more than just they see, that they do feel like they have a higher calling waiting to emerge through them. And so just like in business, in your everyday life, not all of your friends are building empires, right? In your everyday life, not all of your friends are running multiple companies and are doing multiple 6 and 7 figures. Not everybody is really, doing the inner conscious work. And so again, the beauty of the internet is that you can connect with people all over the world who are supporting you and going through this together. Yes. When I created my group, I had no idea. I mean, I wanted everybody to like each other. I wanted everybody to get along, but I had no idea the sisterhood that really actually was built. It was just so beautiful. The other day, the ladies, I have several clients in the UK. They all got together and are having coffee and luncheons and going to the gardens together. And I'm actually going to Scotland in a few days, where we're going to be having, I'm getting remarried in a castle, but I'm having a luncheon the next day with the ladies there. But it's that group support that you can't talk to everybody that you know about these. So having that is just so beautiful. And again, I think it's so interesting how much we have in common. We're saying accountability is everything. We're saying that, these systems need to be in place. Having peer mentors and a container of high-vibing women to motivate, inspire, uplift you is everything. Again, too, our backgrounds.
Yeah. About this, Cynthia, because you hit on something really key, which reminded me a big lesson that I learned earlier in my entrepreneurial journey. Sometimes as women, we feel like, we want to express ourselves around what's going on in our business or in our work. And sometimes we're doing that with our partners.
Oh, yes.
Right. And we're not getting what we want there. Mm-hmm. Right. Like, you're like, why don't you experience that anyway? Why don't you get it? Like, you're not, like, and not that they don't understand. Right. But they're with you from a partner perspective, but they're not in it with you, right? If they're not in a part of your business. Mm-hmm. So it's very important for us to be mindful of, our different needs as women, like how everything doesn't come from your partner.
Right.
And so by being in a group container, having a coach, having business friends that you're masterminding with allows you to have those conversations, right? And not get disappointed during pillow talk, right? When your partner isn't getting or resonating with what you're saying, right? And so I really want to encourage you, if you don't already, have a group container that you are a part of, that you can literally have these conversations and really get what you need from them for other people that are like, it's 100% critical to your success.
Right. Well, even if you have a huge team, you're still the CEO. If you look at that work chart, it's you up there by yourself.
Yeah.
It gets very lonely up top sometimes.
Yeah.
And when you are stuck with your own thoughts, you can be self-sabotaging, you can be your worst enemy, and really just having somebody else in that position in your shoes to confide in, to bounce ideas is everything. I always have and will have a mentor, because I need that person that I can be vulnerable with, that I can share everything with, and to really be like, my sidekick, like I need that person. And I couldn't imagine getting to where I'm at without having that kind of support. Because you're right, in the beginning, you want to have it with your partner and they really care, but also they're not in it all day, every day. And the whole reason that you have your business is obviously to live your life purpose and to serve as many people, but to create a lifestyle that you can have with your partner.
Yeah.
Not just work all the time, So I think as much as Joey and I love talking about my business, we have really created strict boundaries and standards for one another on how to incorporate when it's time to talk business and when it's not. So I'm happy that you brought that up. Let's talk about executing our goals. So tell me more about how you work on this with your clients.
So in terms of goal execution, I really like to look at like 90-day sprints, so setting up we're so aligned. What are your project-based goals that you're doing for, let's say, the quarter, right? 12 weeks, 90 days. And I really like focusing on projects because projects are bigger and you can really move the meter, in your business or even in your life with what you can accomplish in 90 days versus, let's just say, if you're setting up 3 goals for the year, I mean, you may delay all year till like, oh my gosh, I'm 6 months in, I better start tackling those goals that I set up, right? But if you're giving yourself these 90-day sprints, I mean, what you can accomplish is going to be like amazing. So I like to think that way. And like a project is really something that takes like, multiple steps. So I really recommend not to do more than 3 projects a quarter, 5 if you have a team where you have some team members that can actually own their own projects, right? You have a team member that can own 1 or 2 projects. And a project is going to be something more like, hey, we're redesigning, our website, or I'm creating an onboarding process, for my team, or I want to bring in 6 new clients this quarter, right? That's going to take multiple steps to get there. So you can't do but so much because that thing is going to have like 25, 30, tasks underneath of it. And that really accelerates the process of being able to make things happen in the business. So from once I identify what those projects are, what you can work on a daily basis aligns to those projects, where some people make up these random to-do lists like, oh, right, there you go, right? Oh, check, I'm just going to like check my email or do this, right? You're having a lot of reactionary to-dos versus proactive to-dos that are aligned to bigger work. And if you're spending your time right now feeling like, man, why do I end the day feeling like I didn't get enough done? Or why am I in a place after a month or 2 months that I don't feel like, my business is progressing or my life is progressing? It's because the actions that are being taken every day aren't aligned to a bigger meter moving project.
Right. Being busy isn't good. It's about looking for that biggest return in your most important asset, which is your time. When you put your time in, everybody has the same 24 hours. Are you looking for the biggest return? And you're so right. I'm the same way. So 3 months and then thinking about certain goals or projects right away, because a lot of people, I don't know where it comes from, but we've been taught in this idea that we should be balanced in everything. And for me, I always say, no, balancing is for masters, not newbies. Okay. Because that's like juggling. Nobody just picks up 3 balls and starts juggling. You actually start with 1 and toss it back and forth to make sure you can even catch it. Then you go to 2 and then 3, but there's a huge difference between 2 and 3. I'll tell you that, right? So it's not about balancing, because then you do a little bit of this, a little bit of that, a little bit of this, and you are now spent, you're tired, you burn out, and you literally have nothing done except a little bit of everything. So just really banging out those big ones right away and having a process behind it. So yeah, I mean, for me in a spiritual aspect, I love having monthly vision boards. Now, a lot of people have been taught like yearly. I like having the monthly, because these are your 3 projects that you're going to do this month. And if your goals don't scare you, then they're not big enough, right? You can put things on here that seem so far away, but when you have the right systems and understand how to manage your time behind it, you can really condense time. You can collapse time. I'm all about hyper speeding results. That's what I love to do. And so again, it's about having systems and working with the flow and finding out what works for you, because it's not going to be what everybody else, does as well. So the other thing that's important, I'd love to touch base about, is when you're planning your goals, there's a reason why we're not all, billionaires already with, 6-pack abs, drinking margaritas on the beach all day. Right? A lot of us don't hit our goals, but it's because there are things that are going to come up that are going to derail us. And I always, when I'm working with my clients and holding them accountable, is let's talk about what we know is going to stop us before we even get started. Because otherwise we already achieved this thing. It wouldn't be a goal anymore. So what is going to come up that's going to derail you, and how are you going to be proactive this time rather than reactive? And if you are reactive, like what's going to actually work for you? So what do you do, or what do you teach about knowing what's coming up that's going to derail you and how to pivot?
Yeah, I love this. So in our community, we talk about breadwinning behavior, right?
Okay.
How does a breadwinning woman, what is her mindset like? What are her actions like, right? So, that again, like align thought, align feeling, align action, right? Like how are you showing up in a way that allows you, how are you behaving, right? In a way, posturing in a way that allows you to create those results. So, to give an example, one of the things around breadwinning behavior that we talk about is like not micro quitting, right? It's like it's the small quit that leads to a bigger quit. So for example, if you're supposed to, call a client back, you're like, well, they're probably busy, so I'm not going to call them back now. I'll try tomorrow, right? It's like the doubt is creeping in. And so you're giving yourself this micro quit, like this small out that is preventing you from being able to do the thing that you really want to do, right? Or, think about it in terms of working out, right? It's like, that micro quit of like, oh, I'm at the gym, but I want to get home in time for my show, right? I'm not gonna finish my last, 20 minutes on the treadmill or whatever. So it's important that we identify and put practices in place that will allow us in advance, right, to be able to make decisions. Another way that we talk about this in terms of breadwinning behavior is setting prioritization principles.
Okay.
So let's just say that you have a very active family. You may be during your workday and family's calling, right? And you're like, I don't know if I should, stop you, or you have a habit for family or friends call during the day, and you have a habit of stopping work or getting derailed because you get these phone calls. So a prioritization principle would say, what am I deciding in advance that I'm going to do when certain scenarios come up? Right? So you could have a principle that says, listen, I really value my friends and my family. So, for example, with me, like my prioritization principles, I really value, family. So if my mom calls during the day, typically I'm going to answer the phone. And what I'll say is like, hey, mom, is everything okay? right? And she'll say, oh, yeah, everything's good. I was just calling to see if you saw Housewives last night, right? Right. So then it's like, okay, good. I honored my value for family. She's good. So now I can honor the time that I set up to get this work done and say, great, I want to talk about it. Can I call you back at 6 when I'm done?
Yeah.
Right. She says, oh, yeah, call me back. We'll talk about it then. Right. So I've done both. Like I've decided in advance, this is how I'm going to show up in terms of my breadwinning behavior to honor my commitments for myself while also honoring my value for family so that I'm not making an emotional decision in the process where I'm like, and that's when we're compromising, we're sacrificing, we're becoming unaligned, right? So having those principles set up, whereas, for example, with friends, typically, like I lived in South Africa for 2 years. So I have 2 super close girlfriends there, and randomly they will FaceTime me. And my prioritization principle is if they call, I'm okay with stopping whatever it is, and I'm going to take that call. But not necessarily true for my friends in the US. I talk to them all the time, right? Okay, I'll call them back when I take a break. So I think having that set up is critical, right? You can decide in advance, very powerfully, right? What do you want to set up for yourself so that when these things come up that feel like they're coming up against your goals, you already know what to do.
Yeah. So in the beginning, creating these boundaries and these standards seem like you're being a little selfish, and it's very hard for some people to do in the beginning. But I think what I've realized is becoming a woman who's really disciplined and strict with my time is that I'm actually way more generous and giving because I'm focused and present when I decide to be. So one of my girlfriends, for instance, I just had a birthday bash this past weekend. And I had 6 of my girlfriends come to Orlando from all over the country.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. We were hanging out, and a lot of people ask me, so how do you get so much done? How did you have so much growth so quickly? And I described to them, I time block, I discipline my time, I have systems, I work with the universal laws. They're like, yeah, I'm just, I'm more laid back than that. I'm just so like go. And I'm like, what's funny? People think I'm so like disciplined that it's scary. But because I'm so disciplined, I actually lay back more than anybody else. Because when I'm off, I'm off. I said, girlfriends, do you realize these whole 5 days, I haven't even picked up my phone once? And even when my husband calls, I talk to him for 2 minutes. I know we're okay because I'm here with you now. Because I'm disciplined in my standards and boundaries. We're enjoying each other's company even more because I'm able to do that. And they're all like, oh, okay.
Right.
It's actually, no, I have more fun than anybody else because when I'm having fun, I'm having fun. When I'm there chatting with you, I'm not ever going to interrupt. I'm here with you presently, fully, as my IFB, the best version of me now. So it's really cool to hear that you say that as well. I think that's important. You know what? One thing that I really like about you, and definitely I can tell is one of the reasons behind why you're so successful, is that you truly lead by example. It's not just talking the talk, it's walking the walk. And I think for all leaders, like you said, oh, well, it's not a big deal if I do this thing. It's not a big deal if I do this thing. But all these little things, they start adding up. They have a compound effect. Exponential growth or exponential failure is going to happen with all the little things. So being able to lead and being able to trust in yourself is why other people, especially your clients, are there and can trust in you. So what does it mean for you to be leading by example, and why is this so important? And, even why do you feel like it led to your success?
Yeah. So for me, it's a real shift happened in my business when I started to think about, am I practicing the principles that I'm teaching? Right. So when I started earlier in my business, we began focused on productivity, right? We were focused on systems for the individual, right? And then started focusing more on systems for the business. And what I notice is that when I am practicing what I teach, I get to be an example for my clients. I also get to know what it's like with the things that they're struggling with, right? Like, maybe there is a day you skip your spiritual practice in the morning and you're feeling off. I get to be able to give them relatable insight and advice and strategy because I'm doing the work.
Yes.
And I think that's really important as a leader, to be doing the work as best you can, right? And there's going to be times you get off, but like get off track, but having a process to go back to, right? A routine, a practice that you do allows you to just like jump right back in there the next day. Like you don't have to wait to a new year, right? To
Right.
to refresh. But I think it's more important to, like, as a leader, be able to lead with empathy and be able to give that practical advice because you're doing the work
Right.
yourself. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's again about being vulnerable and being willing. And, at the same time, when it comes to leading to example, it's interesting, but my own company, I basically teach people how to do what I do every day. Like, that's what I realize it is.
Yeah.
It's like, how do I get my results? It's a system. It really is. And it's step by step. But it's so important for me to be doing the work. And like, for instance, we have homework, which we refer to as soul work, every single week in the program. But I'm like telling them, it's not like, oh, this is this week's. This is, you go back all the different weeks. This is like a life process, a life journey. And this is what I'm continuing to work on all the time, no matter what.
Yeah.
And like you said, it makes you a better teacher when you are the one leading by example, because when they feel down, you can remember being that way. You're like, no, this is the shift you make because this is how I did it. But it's, I think being a coach and a mentor has helped me to get even such better results in my own life. Because again, it's that self-accountability and knowing that you are carrying the weight of other people's success. And I know for you, it's the same thing. My client success is seriously my success. It's my reputation. So it's making sure that I'm leading by example. And I think that's awesome. Well, we spent quite a bit of time here today, but I am so happy that we did. Before we sign off, I'd love for you to share how you would best love people to follow you. And we'll make sure to share those links with our audience as well.
Yeah, definitely. So I'd love to, connect. Feel free to, tag us in this episode. I'm on Instagram at Women Breadwinners is my handle on Instagram. And I also want to encourage you to check out the Breadwinning Women podcast. Like Cynthia said, she's going to be a guest soon. So you definitely want to go ahead and subscribe so you don't miss the episode with Cynthia. So that'll be coming up really soon. And we're on iTunes, Google Play Music, SoundCloud, basically everywhere podcasts are found.
Cool. We'll definitely be sharing that, especially that upcoming episode too, because I'm really looking forward to that. Well, again, Jamila, thank you so much for hanging out today. It's so fun to hear about, how we have so much in common. And I don't think that's a coincidence, right? Like there is a formula to success. And this is like the conversations that really are going to inspire and, help so many other women. So thank you for being part of the Interfeminine Beast interview.
Oh, thank you for having me. This has been awesome.
Yeah. And as I always sign off, acknowledge it, embrace it, see it through.